Through you, Mr. Chair, it is 4 o'clock, and I can confirm that the streaming and the recording is on, so you may begin your meeting.
Okay, I will start then with the introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, this is an electronic hearing of the Committee of Adjustments for the Town of Pelham. Everyone present and viewing at home will be given an opportunity to comment on the applications being heard. I would ask that you please address your comments and questions to the chair. This public meeting has been called to satisfy requirements of the Planning Act and Council bylaws. Now, this notice of this meeting has been given by prepaid first-class mail to all persons listed as owners in the last revised assessment roll within 60 meters, 200 feet of the subject properties. In addition, a public notice sign has been posted on the lands and information has been provided on the town's Committee of Adjustment webpage. Agencies commenting on applications may request that certain conditions be imposed should an application be approved. Voicing objections to these conditions will not adversely affect the committee's decision. Now, the process for the purpose of the application and relative correspondence will be heard, following which the applicant will be given the opportunity to address the application. Any person concerned with the application will then be given an opportunity to participate in the meeting. If you have pre-registered to speak during the public portion of the application, you will be brought into the Zoom meeting and will be unmuted. Please state your name and mailing address for the record. Please be advised once you have finished speaking, you will be removed from the Zoom meeting room. If you are live streaming at home and you wish to submit a comment during an application, you may do so by emailing clerks@pelham.ca. At the conclusion of the public portion of the meetings, these comments will be read into the record. If you submit comments after the public portion has been closed, your comments will not be considered. At the conclusion of the discussion, the committee will render a decision and advise of any applicable conditions. Specific wording for conditions will be determined by the committee following the public portion of this hearing. Copies of the decision will be mailed to the applicant or agent and to any other person who files a written request. If you wish to be provided a copy of the decision, please contact the Secretary Treasurer in writing as soon as possible. The Secretary Treasurer's contact information is available on the upcoming PowerPoint presentation and available on the town's website. Any person, corporation, or public body has a right to appeal either the decision itself or the conditions of consent to the local appeal body within 20 days of the decision for minor variance and within 20 days of the mailing of the decision for consent applications. Now, additional information for Zoom. This meeting is being conducted by Zoom webinar and is also being live streamed on the town's YouTube channel. You may wish to put your view on gallery view by clicking the top right corner from speaker view. We ask that you are mindful of background noise for the duration of the meeting. Committee members are asked to mute their microphones until you are asked to speak. Please raise your hand if you would like to speak and vote by raising your hand. Please note that attendees who have registered will remain in the waiting room via telephone or electronically until the application of interest is brought to the committee. Those participating online via Zoom will be asked by the chair to raise their virtual hand when they wish to speak. On a computer, you can do so by clicking on participants in the bottom center of the screen and then by clicking raise hand. On a mobile device, you can tap raise hand in the bottom left corner. You will then be called to speak and your microphone will be unmuted by staff. If you are participating by phone, you will be unmuted by staff when the agenda item that you have registered for is being discussed. Applicants, agents, and attendants are advised that they are free to leave the webinar once a decision has been made under application. Now, like to introduce our Committee of Adjustment panel. I'm the co-chair, John Clausen. Then we have member Brenda Stan, give her a little wave. And then we have member Sandra Marsh, little wave. Then we have the Secretary Treasurer, who's with us today, Holly Wilford. And then we have some other people in hiding. Now, at this time, do any of the panel members have any pecuniary interest in any of, in accordance with the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act in any of the applications to be considered at this hearing? I have none. Brenda?
I have none.
And Sandra?
And I have none.
Okay. Now, Holly, was there any requests for withdrawal or adjournments?
Through you, Mr. Chair, no, there is not.
So, in that fact, I gather that we can start with the first application, I think, which is 1363 Station Street.
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes, that is correct. This is application A 32/2021P, and I would just ask Ms. Miller if she would take the moment to share her screen with our PowerPoint presentation. Thank you. This is the Committee of Adjustment hearing for Wednesday, September 8th, 2021 for 4 o'clock. All Town of Pelham in-person Committee of Adjustment hearings have been canceled. Instead, the town is holding all Committee of Adjustment hearings electronically via Zoom. Please note, no decisions have been made prior to this public meeting. This presentation is based upon the Town of Pelham's Planning Department report and analysis. All comments received from commenting agencies and the public have been forwarded in full to the Committee of Adjustment members for their consideration. Participants are reminded, ensure your background is free from offensive or vulgar material. If inappropriate material is visible, you'll be removed from the meeting. Vulgar or offensive language will not be tolerated. If inappropriate language is used, you'll be removed from the meeting. Participant microphones and video cameras will remain off until they are called to speak. Once your comments have been heard by the committee, your microphone will be muted. Once voting on an item has taken place, participants will be removed from the meeting completely. You may resume viewing the matter from the live stream. Committee of Adjustment, Decorum. Decorum. The Committee of Adjustment is a formal public hearing requiring decorum, meaning all comments are to be made through the chair. If you have pre-registered to speak, you'll be given an opportunity to address the committee at the public portion of the meeting. If you are live streaming and wish to submit comments live, please email clerks@pelham.ca. Please note, comments must be received during the public portion of the meeting, otherwise they will not be considered. Disrespectful comments will not be tolerated. Cheering, booing, or hissing from the gallery will not be tolerated. Please note, if decorum is lost, the meeting may be recessed and persons will ask to be leaved. Public portion of the meeting. To allow for an efficient meeting, each member of the public will be given an opportunity to speak to the committee during the public portion of the meeting. Please note, after all members of the public have been given the opportunity to speak, the applicant and agent will have the opportunity to address the public comments concerns at one time. Application for minor variance. File A32/2021P 1363 Station Street. Excerpts from Planning Report. The subject land is located on the east side of Station Street, lying north of Port Robinson Road, known locally as 1363 Station Street. The minor variance application requests relief from Section 5.54A, Apartment Dwelling Definition, to permit dwelling unit entrance from the exterior without an interior corridor, whereas the bylaw requires that dwelling units be accessible from a corridor system connecting with a common entrance from outside the dwelling. Section 6.16DI, Ingress and Egress, to permit a minimum driveway width of 6.2 meters, whereas the bylaw requires 7.5 meters. Section 6.16I, Parking Lot Location on Lot, to permit a minimum parking area distance of 3.7 meters to the street line and 0.9 meters to the south side lot line from the existing front parking area, whereas the bylaw requires 7.5 meters to the street line and 3 meters to the side lot line or rear lot line. Section 17.2G, Minimum Rear Yard, to permit a minimum rear yard of 5 meters, whereas the bylaw requires 12 meters or 1/2 of the height of the building, whichever is greater. Section 17.2H, minimum exterior side yard, to permit a minimum exterior side yard of 3.8 meters, whereas the bylaw requires 6 meters or 1/2 of the height of the building, whichever is greater. Section 17.2J, minimum landscaped area, to permit a minimum landscaped area of 23%, whereas the bylaw requires 35%. To date, the following comments have been received. Building division. A building permit is required for the proposed 2-story apartment building. Public Works Department. The following comments shall be addressed to the satisfaction of the Director of Public Works. Note that further comments to be forthcoming on subsequent submissions. The Town of Pelham Public Works Department have reviewed the following documentation for the purpose of this application. Site Plan SP1 by Zoltan Engineering, dated July 8th, 2021. Site Servicing, Functional Servicing Report. At the pre-consultation stage, Town of Pelham staff required that a functional servicing report be submitted with minor variance applications to conform to the capacity requirements for the new development at 1363 Station Street. Town staff also require the developer to show how stormwater runoff will be controlled on the site. Water servicing. Presently, this site is being serviced by 2 water service connections, a 20mm line and a 40mm line from Station Street. As per Town of Pelham engineering standards, this site may only be serviced by 1 water connection. The unused existing water service to the property line is to be abandoned and removed back to the main. Storm sewer connection. As per the Town of Pelham engineering standards, the developer is required to ensure that all surface water runoff is contained on site. The town staff will require a storm management report which details stormwater management strategies and provide all necessary calculations and demonstrations post-development runoff rates within allowances. Town of Pelham required that the developer construct a new storm sewer to receive stormwater runoff from the site plan. Please note that a maintenance hole at the property line will also be required. Public comments. A written submission was received from Jennifer Vita on behalf of Humble Properties, Inc., which owns the property directly north and east of the subject lands. The written submission details Humble Properties, Inc.'s support for the proposed development and that the proposed variance satisfies 4 tests set out by the Planning Act and that the proposed setbacks will not negatively impact the adjacent area. Is the variance minor in nature? The proposed reduced rear yard setback is minor overall, provided the proposed building height is 2 stories and that planting strips will be provided along the rear lot line, creating a physical buffer and separating the proposed apartment dwelling building and rear lot. The proposed reduced landscape area is minor overall as the front yard landscaping area remains unchanged, while the site proposes an abundance of amenity areas for the residents to enjoy. The variance of the apartment dwelling definition is minor given the size and layout of the new ground-oriented apartment building, replacing the interior corridor system with exterior individual rear entries would be more appropriate and suitable, while the resulting impact would be negligible. The impacts resulting from pre-existing legal non-conforming conditions on the subject and adjacent properties are minor overall, as the fence along the south lot line provides buffering between the subject parcel and neighboring site, which helps to negate impacts from the reduced side yard setbacks and parking area layouts. The reduced width from the driveway will have minor impact overall, as the parking area will still function well and allow for safe and practical movements of vehicles. The proposed development should not exacerbate the existing conditions and result in impacts. The variances are considered minor in nature as no adverse impacts are anticipated. The proposed apartment building and site design is generally consistent with the existing neighborhood character and build form, and the proposed infill redevelopment is appropriate from the land use compatibility, housing type, and density perspective. Is the variance desirable for the development or use of the land? The moderate 2-story height will help to minimize the building's overall visual impacts on the subject and adjacent lands with regards to the reduced rear yard setback, and reduced landscaped area can be remedied through properly designed, well-placed, and high-quality landscape treatments, which must be displayed in the requested landscaping plan and at site plan stage. The alternative entrance system proposed for the apartment building, differing from the interior corridor system, is desirable as it allows for more efficient use of the building's interior space without having to compromise for a common lobby, which would be impractical given the building's size and design. Adequate amounts of open space and amenity area remain for recreational use. The proposed spatial separation between the existing and the proposed building is also appropriate, and the general setback from the required yard is consistent with contemporary development standards. It would not impede the neighboring residential personal privacy and enjoyment of their lands. The variance will help facilitate and develop of a new apartment building which has a moderate height and massing and is designed to fit within the overall neighborhood character with a ground-oriented building type accompanied with suitable exterior finishes. It was also desirable for the development and use of the land as the subject lands are designated in the built-up area with the appropriate zoning, which allows for further residential intensification and provides opportunities for residents to live close to the core center of the town and be able to access services in proximity. Does the variance maintain the general intent and purpose of the official plan? The variance maintains the general purpose and intent of the official plan as it implements the vision for reasonable residential implementation in the urban living area designated, and the development would not compromise the neighborhood's ability to be adequately serviced, maintain land use compatibility, while also providing additional residential apartment units, thus increasing variety in the available housing stock. Does the variance maintain the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw? The variance maintains the general intent of the zoning bylaw because the requested variance will allow for logical and appropriate use of the land in providing additional apartment dwelling units in a zone that is suitable to do so, all while maintaining adequate land for parking space, outdoor amenity, and open spaces. It is also recognized that the three of the variants address non-complying circumstances of the existing building which demonstrated fit and compatibility within the neighborhood, thereby maintaining the intent of the bylaw and permits the apartment dwelling at this location. In planning staff's opinion, the application is consistent with the provincial policy statement and conforms with provincial, regional, and local plans. The requested variance is minor in nature, conforms with the general policies and intent of both the official and zoning plan, and is appropriate for the development and use of the land. Given this analysis, planning staff recommend that minor variance file A32/2021 be approved subject to the following conditions. That the applicant conduct a Stage 1-2 archaeological assessment and receive clearance from the Ministry of Heritage, Sports, Tourism, and Culture Industries prior to site plan application. Enter into a site plan agreement to the satisfaction of the town addressing the following: submission and approval for functional servicing reports to confirm the capacity requirements for the new development. Submission and approval for a storm water management report which details stormwater management strategies and provides all necessary calculations to demonstrate post-development runoff rates within allowance limits. Reports must show that all surface water runoff is contained on the site and how stormwater runoff will be controlled. Abandon and remove the unused existing water service connection. Construct a new storm sewer to receive stormwater runoff from site maintenance hole, and the property line will also be required. Submit a landscape plan detailing landscape treatments and features, plant materials, and landscape specifications, tree preservation plan, and for any other additional information necessary for clarification. If you wish to receive a copy of the notice of decision, please contact the Secretary-Treasurer in writing as soon as possible. Holly Wilford, Secretary-Treasurer, Committee of Adjustment, 20 Pelham Town Square, P.O. Box 400, Fonthill, Ontario, LOS 1E0 H. Wilford at pelham.ca. This contact information can also be found at the Town of Pelham's website. Through you, Mr. Chair, thank you very much. That concludes our PowerPoint presentation, and we will bring in the applicant or agent that is present for this application. I believe we have Garrett. Yes, he's now being brought into the meeting. Mr. Chair, to you.
Okay, I'm just looking to see Garrett. Oh, there he is. Okay, welcome. The questions. Do you, Brenda or Sandra, have any questions? Go ahead, Sandra.
Through the chair, I do have a question. I just have a question regarding where moving trucks would have their, being that this is an apartment building, there would be people moving in and out more regularly than a single family dwelling. So I'm just wondering if moving trucks would be able to have their truck on site generally, or would they be having to have a larger truck on Station Street, which is already quite becoming quite busy?
Yeah, go ahead, Garrett.
Yeah, so the parking lot is quite large in between the existing building and the proposed building. And there also is in front of the refuse location, there is a space for a truck to park where the garbage truck would pick up the garbage, where also a moving truck could be parked to avoid keeping on the street.
Okay, so just so that I'm clear, so that if there are moving trucks there and they're moving people in and out of the building, the other residents and other people will not be affected by that. Like the moving truck won't be blocking Station Street, and the other people that are in the apartment building won't have to juggle cars around to get around a larger vehicle. Is that correct?
Exactly, yeah.
Thank you.
Fine. Brenda, have you any questions?
I have no questions.
The only thing with this archaeological dig, Garrett, how did this come about that you have to do an archaeological dig?
I believe that's a requirement due to findings at sites in close proximity previously.
Oh, okay, fine. No problem. Then I have no further questions. Okay, Holly, is that the public portion of the meeting? Are there any emails?
Let me just check the email. We had no pre-registered members of the public. Let me just check the clerk's email address. Mr. Chair, I can confirm that it's 4:21 p.m. and there are no emails and we have no pre-registered members. Unless the applicant had anything further he wished to add, you can certainly close the public portion of the meeting.
Mr. Vander, have you got anything further to add?
Nothing further.
Okay, then I will close the public portion of the meeting. And then we get into the next phase.
That's correct. That would be committee debate. And if committee is ready to make a decision, the committee would be looking for a mover and a seconder of a motion.
Who would one of the committee like to make a motion? Do I have a motion? Okay, Sandra, please.
I can make the motion for file A32/2021P 1363 Station Street, Pelham, that the application is made for minor variance of apartment dwelling definition to allow exterior access, minimum driveway width of 6.2 meters, minimum parking area distance of 3.7 meters to street line and 0.9 meters to side lot line, minimum rear yard of 5 meters, minimum interior side yard of 3.8 meters, and minimum landscape area of 23%, that the application is granted for the following reasons. Do I have to get her to second first? Sorry, John.
No, you.
I'll keep going. For the following reasons. The variance is minor in nature as the proposal is more suitable for the land. There's no adverse impacts anticipated. The buffer exists between the subject lands and the neighboring properties. The site provides an abundance of amenity space. The intent of the zoning bylaw is maintained and the intent of the official plan is maintained. The proposal is desirable for the area as it allows for more efficient use of the interior space. It helps facilitate the development of a ground-oriented apartment building. The overall visual impact is minimized. It fits the character of the neighborhood and contains high-quality landscape treatment. No objections were received from commenting agencies or abutting property owners, and this application is granted without prejudice to any other application in the town of Pelham. The Committee of Adjustment has considered the written and oral comments and agrees with the minor variance report analysis and recommendation that this application meets the Planning Act test for minor variance, and the applicant is aware of site plan agreement requirements. The conditions are that prior to building permit that stage 1 and 2 archaeological assessment is completed, and they enter into a site plan agreement to the satisfaction of the town of Pelham.
Thank you, Sandra. Do we have a seconder?
I second.
Thank you, Brenda. I will then call a vote to grant the minor variance. All in favor? Carried. Granted. Thank you, Mr. Van der Meulen.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That does bring us to our next item on the agenda, which is application A33/2021, and it's 18 Beechwood Crescent. I would just ask if it's okay with you that we share our screen and bring up our next PowerPoint presentation. And this is for application for minor variance, file A33/2021 P18 Beechwood Crescent. Excerpts from Planning Report. The subject land is located on the south side of Beechwood Crescent, lying west of Kunda Park Boulevard, known locally as 18 Beechwood Crescent. The minor variance application requests relief from Section 13.2C, maximum lot coverage, seeking 40%, whereas 30% is required. The proposal seeks to construct a covered porch addition to the existing residential dwelling. To date, the following comments have been received. Building Department. A building permit is required for the proposed covered porch. No public comments were received at the time of writing this report. Is the variance minor in nature? The increased lot coverage is minor overall, as the impact on the subject property and adjacent properties is minimal. No negative impacts are anticipated by the adjacent neighbors, as adequate distance separates the nearest residential neighborhood from the existing building and the proposed addition. The proposed addition is reasonably sized and is built on the rear yard, which will not be visible from the front of the property. Is the variance desirable for the development or use of the land? The increased lot coverage is desirable because it will allow for the construction of a covered porch which can be enjoyed by the resident. The proposed addition is located on the rear yard and is screened from public view, and its size and built form are also compatible with the existing dwelling and built form on the street, and is therefore able to maintain the character of the area. Does the variance maintain the general intent and purpose of the official plan? The variance maintains the general purpose and intent of the official plan because it does not compromise the neighborhood's ability to be adequately serviced, maintain land use compatibility, while also improving the property value and aesthetics by providing a covered porch. Does the variance maintain the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw? The variance maintains the general intent of the zoning bylaw because the requested variance will allow for logical and appropriate extension of the dwelling while still maintaining adequate land for outdoor amenity and landscaped area. Planning staff are of the opinion that the proposal applies current planning and development principles and provides design flexibility where suitable to do so. The proposal makes efficient use of land, will not result in overbuilding of the property, and will not alter the view, sightlines, or personal enjoyment of the subject property or any neighboring property, and should not negatively impact the property or neighboring property and surrounding neighborhood with regards to the use of incompatibility, traffic, privacy, and stormwater runoff. In Planning Department's opinion, the application is consistent with the provincial policy statement and conforms to provincial, regional, and local plans. Planning staff recommend that application number A33/2021 P be approved subject to the following conditions. That the applicant apply and receive building permit for the proposed covered porch. If you wish to receive a copy of the Notice of Decision, please contact the Secretary-Treasurer in writing as soon as possible. H. Wilford, Secretary-Treasurer, Committee of Adjustment, 20 Pelham Town Square, P.O. Box 400, Fonthill, Ontario, LOS 1E0, H. Wilford at pelham.ca. This contact information can also be found at the Town of Pelham's website. Through you, Mr. Chair, thank you very much. We do have our applicant, Mike Azzatini, with us. If Ms. Miller would just like to bring our applicant into the meeting room. Thank you, and it does appear that we have our applicant in the meeting room. If they'd like, they can unmute and turn on their camera if they wish. Okay, it looks like They're unmuted, so Mr. Chair, to you.
Okay, I'd ask the applicant. I don't really have any questions. Do Brenda or Sandra have any questions?
I don't have any questions.
I also don't have any questions.
Mike, I forget the last name. I'm sorry.
Azatini, sir.
Yeah, Azatini.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Sorry for that.
It's okay.
No, that's not very nice. But anyhow, I thank you for forgiving me. Have you got anything else that you want to add on this little addition? I gather there's no problem with neighbors or anything. That looks fairly straightforward.
I will be applying for a building permit once this goes through. I've had engineered drawings done by an architect, so we're just dotting all our I's and crossing all our T's.
Okay, so, I mean, the building department will make sure everything is done according to the rules and regulations and code requirements. So seeing that I have also no further questions, I'd like to close the public portion of the meeting and ask if there are any emails that were sent.
Thank you. Just give me one moment, Mr. Chair, and I will check the clerk's email address. Mr. Chair, I can confirm that it is 4:30 and we have no pre-registered members of the public, and we have received no emails to the clerks@pelham.ca email, and then you can close the public portion.
Okay, I will close the public portion of the meeting and we'll proceed right in. Can I have a motion for this application, please? Go ahead, Brenda.
I recommend that we, on application file A33/2021P for 18 Beechwood Crescent in Pelham, application is made for a minor variance for a maximum lot coverage of 40%. I recommend that the application is granted, and the reasons are the application is minor in nature as the impact on adjacent properties is minimal. The intent of the zoning bylaw is maintained. The intent of the official plan is maintained. The proposal is desirable for the land as it allows for construction of a proposed covered porch. No objections were received from commenting agencies or abutting property owners. This application is granted without prejudice to any other applications in the town of Pelham. The Committee of Adjustment considered the written and oral comments and agrees with a minor variance report analysis and recommendation that this application meets the Planning Act tests for minor variance. A condition, a building permit will be required for the proposed covered porch.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder?
I will second that.
Thank you, Brenda. Sandra. Okay, I'll put it to the vote. All in favor, raise your hand. Okay, it's carried. Thank you, Mr. Azatini, for your presence, and you've been granted the.
Thank you for your time.
Variant. You're welcome. Now we will proceed now with application, the one on Highway 20 West. What's it? 345.
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes, thank you. It is 345 Highway 20 West, and it's file A34/2021P. And now if I could just ask Ms. Miller to share our screen for that application. Thank you. So this is application for minor variance, file A34/2021P, 345 Highway 20 West. Excerpts from Planning Report. The subject land is located on the north side of Highway 20, lying west on Effingham Street, known locally as 345 Highway 20 West. The property has a site-specific zoning to allow for current use as a welding business, which includes the service and sale of trailers and trailer accessories. The applicant is seeking permission pursuant to Section 45(2)(a)(2) of the Planning Act to permit vehicle repairs and sales as a similar use to the existing permitted welding shop and trailer sales and service business. To date, the following comments have been received. Niagara Region Planning and Development Services, no objections. Building Department, no comments. No public comments were received from the public at the time of writing this report. Planning staff is of the opinion that the application for similar use is in keeping with the goals and with the intent of the official plan and zoning bylaw. The reasoning being is the proposed use is similar and compatible with uses currently existing on the subject site and surrounding neighborhood, and its impact would not exceed what is currently existing. It is also noted that no building expansion or alteration is required to accommodate the proposed vehicle repair and sales use. In planning staff's opinion, the application is consistent with the provincial policy statement, provincial and regional plans, and conforms to the general policies and intent of both the official plan and zoning bylaw, and is appropriate for the development and use of the lands. Given the analysis, planning staff recommend the minor variance file A34/2021P be approved. If you wish to receive a copy of the notice of decision, please contact the Secretary-Treasurer in writing as soon as possible. Holly Wilford, Secretary-Treasurer, Committee of Adjustment, 20 Pelham Town Square, P.O. Box 400, Fall Hill, Ontario, LOS 1E0, H. Wilford at pelham.ca. This contact information can also be found on the Town of Pelham's website. 3, Mr. Chair, thank you. We do have our applicant or agent here, Mr. Stephen Rivers. If Ms. Miller can just bring the agent and applicant, if the applicant is here as well, into the meeting. Thank you. I see that we do have the agent here. If the agent wishes, he can unmute himself. Mr. Rivers, I don't know if you can hear me. Okay. You're in the meeting room, and if you'd like, you can unmute yourself so you can speak to your application.
I think I've unmuted myself.
Yes, we can hear you. Thank you. To you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Rivers, with this car sales net, are you going to be displaying inventory around the yard?
My understanding, Mr. Chairman, that no, they won't be displaying inventory around the yard. There may be the occasional vehicle, but they will be behind the house.
Okay, that'll be all behind the house. Okay. Do Brenda or Sandra have any questions?
I have no questions. I have no questions. Thank you.
Brenda?
I have no questions.
Okay, I have no other further questions, so I'll close the public portion of the meeting and ask if there are any emails to this effect.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Let me just check our clerks at pelham.ca email address. I can confirm, Mr. Chair, that it is 4:37 p.m. and we have no emails and no pre-registered members of the public, so you can close and begin committee input.
Okay, then thank you, Holly. Then I'll close the public portion of the meeting. And I will then ask if I can have a motion from one of the committee members. Okay, Sandra, please proceed.
Regarding file A34/2021P, 345 Highway 20 West Pelham, the application for minor variance to expand the legal non-conforming use to vehicle repairs and sales be granted for the following reasons. Satisfies Planning Act and Policy A2. The use is more in keeping with the official plan and zoning bylaw. There's no negative impacts anticipated. This application is granted without prejudice to any other application in the town of Pelham. No objections were received, and the Committee of Adjustment considered the written and oral comments and agrees with the minor variance report analysis and recommendation that this application meets the Planning Act test for minor variance, and there's no conditions.
Okay, thank you, Sandra. Then no further question, no further ado, I asked that all those in favor please raise their hand.
Thank you. So I do take that Brenda Stan did second that. Sorry, I didn't see that.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, Brenda, I need a seconder.
I second that motion.
Okay, then all in favor, raise their hands. Thank you. It's carried. Motion's carried. Thank you, Mr. Rivers. Good luck with your business. I hope things really go well for you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That does bring us to our next item on the agenda, which is application B25 2021P. This is the west side of Rice Road. And we will just share our screen and bring up our PowerPoint presentation.
Okay, just to be clear, we're all the B25 to B28 is all together because all these are so that a driveway and a right of way for some services all can be done so that the parcel could be of lands can be then divided in such a way that can be used.
Through you, Mr. Chair. The first application is a boundary adjustment to move some lands from the north to be moved into lands to the south. And then you are correct. There are various easements being asked for right-of-way, sanitary or as you say, utilities. And so there are 4 applications. We do have 4 separate PowerPoint presentations because they are all a little bit different. It's up to the committee if you'd like to hear each application individually, or if you would like me to read all 4 PowerPoints into the record at once, and then you can consider them. It's to whatever the committee desires.
Well, I would suggest that we read it and that we put the whole thing together at one time, because all 4 points interrelate with each other. So any questions we'd have would be interrelated with all the applications, unless Brenda and Sandra, I don't know how you feel. I would think that would be the most efficient way to handle this. Yeah, go ahead, Sandra.
I agree with that approach.
Okay.
Thank you. I will then read each PowerPoint presentation, then the committee can consider all of the applications. As you indicate, they are all related, and then we can go from there. So this PowerPoint presentation is for file B25/2021P, west side of Rice Road. The subject parcel, being parts 5 and 10, has a frontage of 17.15 meters on the west side of Rice Road, and parts 3 and 10 is an interior parcel of land situated 123.24 meters west of Rice Road, and part 14 is an interior parcel of land situated approximately 123.24 meters west of Rice Road, all lying south of Highway 20, being part of Block 3, Plan 59M 432, designated as parts 7 and 13 on 59R-16208 in the town of Pelham. Application is made for consent to convey 2,266.2 square meters of land, parts 5 and 10, to be added to the abutting property to the south, parts 6 and 7 for future development. Convey an easement in perpetuity over 277.9 square meters of land, being parts 3 and 10, to the benefit of parts 1, 2, 11, and 12 for a right-of-way. Convey an easement in perpetuity over 41.2 square meters of land, being part 14, to the benefit of parts 1, 2, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12 for a right-of-way. Convey an easement in perpetuity over 24.3 square meters of land, being part 10, to the benefit of parts 3, 4, 13, and 14 for private water main. Parts 3, 4, 5, 10, 13, and 14 are to be retained for continued future commercial use. To date, the following comments have been received. Building Department, no comments. Niagara Region Planning and Development Services, no comments. Hydro One, no concerns or comments. Public Works Department, no comments. Niagara Region Development Services, no comments. No comments received from the public at the time of writing this report. Planning staff is of the opinion that the proposal applies current planning and development goals, dealing with appropriate lot creation, making more efficient use of the existing urban lands and infrastructure where suitable to do so. In planning staff's opinion, the application is consistent with the provincial policy statement, conforms to provincial, regional, and local plans. Planning staff recommend that application number B25/2021P be approved, subject to the following conditions. That the application merge parts 5 and 10 with parts 6 and 7. A solicitor's undertaking, to the satisfaction of the Secretary-Treasurer, identify the order of title document registration with respect to the proposed transfer and easement documents. That application for consent file B25/2021P receive final certification with the Secretary-Treasurer concurrently with applications B26, 27, and 28 2021P. Provide the Secretary Treasurer with registrable legal description of the subject parcel together with a copy of the deposited reference plan, if applicable, for the issuance of the certificate of consent. Provide the final certification fee of $3.99 payable to the Treasurer, Town of Pelham, to be submitted to the Secretary Treasurer. All costs associated with fulfilling conditions shall be borne by the applicant. I'll read the contact information after all of the PowerPoints.
Yes.
That concludes B25. We'll move on to our PowerPoint for B26. If you can just give us a moment to share our screen. Thank you. And this is for file B26/2021P. This is the southeastern corner of Rice Road and Shaw Avenue. The subject parcel, being Part 7, has a frontage of 7.83 meters on the north side of Shaw Avenue, aka Meridian Way, lying east of Wellspring Way, being part of Block 3, Plan 59M, 432, designated as parts 6, 14, and 15 on 59R-16208, parts 6 and 7 in the town of Pelham. Application is made for consent to convey an easement in perpetuity over 698.3 square meters of land, being part 7, to the benefit of parts 1, 2, 3, 4, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14 for a right-of-way. Convey an easement in perpetuity over 698.3 square meters of land, being part 7, to benefit parts 3, 4, 13, and 14 for a private water main. Parts 6 and 7 are to be retained for continued future commercial use. To date, the following comments have been received. Building Department, no comments. Niagara Region Planning and Development Services, no comments. Hydro One, no concerns or comments. Public Works Department, no comments. Niagara Region Development Planning Services, no comments. No comments were received from the public at the time of writing this report. Planning staff is of the opinion that the proposal applies current planning and development goals dealing with appropriate consent development. The proposed consents comply with zoning bylaw regulations that should not negatively impact the surrounding neighborhoods with regards to traffic, privacy, and stormwater runoff. In planning staff's opinion, the application is consistent with provincial policy statements and conforms to provincial, regional, and local plans. Given this analysis, planning staff recommend that consent file B26/2021P be approved subject to the following conditions. The application for consent file B26/2021P receive final certification of the Secretary Treasurer concurrent with applications B25/2021P, B27/2021P, and B28/2121P. Provided the Secretary Treasurer with a registrable legal description of the subject parcel together with a copy of the deposited reference plan with applicable use in issuing the certificate of consent. Provide the final certification fee of $3.99 payable to the Treasurer, Town of Pelham, to be submitted to the Secretary Treasurer. All costs associated with fulfilling the conditions shall be borne by the applicant. Thank you, Mr. Chair. That concludes that PowerPoint presentation. We will now read PowerPoint presentation for B27. If you just give us a moment to share our screen. Thank you. This is for file B27/2021P. This is the north side of Shaw Avenue, aka Meridian Way. The subject parcel, being Part 8, has a frontage of 2.25 meters on the north side of Shaw Avenue, aka Meridian Way, laying east of Wellspring Way, being part of Block 3, Plan 59M-432, designated as Part 5 on 59R-16208, Parts 8 and 9 in the town of Pelham. Application is made for consent to convey an easement in perpetuity over 199.1 square meters of land, being Part 8, to the benefit of Parts 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14 for a right-of-way. Convey an easement in perpetuity over 199.1 square meters of land, being Part 8, to the benefit of Parts 3, 4, 13, and 14 on sketch for a private water main. Part 8 and 9 are to be retained for continued future commercial use. To date, the following comments have been received. Building Department, no comments. Niagara Region and Planning Development Services, no comments. Hydro 1, no concerns or comments. Public Works Department, no comments. Niagara Region Development Planning Services, no comments. No comments were received from the public at the time of writing this report. Planning staff is of the opinion that the proposal applies current planning and development goals dealing with appropriate consent development. The proposed consents comply with the zoning bylaw regulations and should not negatively impact the surrounding neighborhood with regards to traffic, privacy, or stormwater runoff. The planning staff's opinion, the application is consistent with the provincial policy statement and conforms to provincial, regional, and local plans. Planning staff recommend that application B27/2021P be approved subject to the following conditions. That application for consent file B27/2021P receive final certification of the Secretary Treasurer concurrently with applications B25, 26, and 28, 2021P. Provide the Secretary Treasurer with a registrable legal description of the subject parcel together with a copy of the deposited reference plan, if applicable, for the use of issuing the certificate of consent. Provide the final certification fee of $3.99 payable to the Treasurer, Town of Pelham, be submitted to the Secretary Treasurer. All costs associated with fulfilling conditions of the consent shall be borne by the applicant. Thank you, Mr. Chair. That concludes the PowerPoint for B27. If you can give us a moment, we'll upload and share our screen with B28. Thank you. This is for file B28/2021P. This is the east side of Wellspring Way between Regional Road 20 and Shaw Avenue, aka Meridian Way. The subject parcel, being parts 2 and 11, are interior portions of land approximately 63.09 meters north of Shaw Avenue, aka Meridian Way, lying east of Wellspring Way, being part of Block 3, Plan 59M 432, designated as parts 2, 3, and 12 on 59R-16208, parts 1, 2, 11, and 12 in the town of Pelham. Application is made for consent to convey an easement in perpetuity over 95.4 square meters of land, being part 2, to the benefit of parts 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 13, and 14 for right-of-way. Conveys of an easement in perpetuity over 95.4 square meters of land, being parts 2, to the benefit of parts 3, 4, 13, and 14 of a private water main. Convey an easement in perpetuity over 118.2 square meters of land, being part 11, to the benefit of parts 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 13, and 14 for pedestrian access. Parts 1, 2, 11, and 12 are to be retained for the continued future commercial use. To date, the following comments have been received. Building Department, no comments. Niagara Region Planning and Development Services, no comments. Hydro, no comments or concerns. Public Works, no comments. Niagara Region Development Planning Services, no comments. No comments were received from the public at the time of writing this report. Planning staff is of the opinion that the proposal applies current planning and development goals dealing with appropriate consent development, and proposed consent complies with zoning bylaw regulations and should not negatively impact the surrounding neighborhood with regards to traffic, privacy, and stormwater runoff. In planning staff's opinion, the application is consistent with the provincial policy statement, conforms with provincial, regional, and local plans. Planning staff recommend that application number B28/2021P be approved subject to the following conditions. That the application for consent file B28/2021P receive final certification of the Secretary Treasurer concurrent with applications B25/2021P, B26, and B27/2021P. Provide the Secretary Treasurer with a registrable legal description of the subject parcel together with a copy of the deposited reference plan, if applicable, for use in the issuance of the certificate of consent. Provide the final certification fee of $3.99 payable to the Treasurer, Town of Pelham, be submitted to the Secretary Treasurer. All costs associated with fulfilling conditions of consent shall be borne by the applicant. If you wish to receive a copy of the Notice of Decision, please contact the Secretary Treasurer in writing as soon as possible. H. Wilford, Secretary Treasurer, Committee of Adjustment, 20 Pelham Town Square, P.O. Box 400, Fonthill, Ontario, LOS 1E0 hwilford@pelham.ca. This contact information can be found at the Town of Pelham's website. Through you, Mr. Chair, that does conclude our PowerPoint presentations for applications B25 to B28. We do have our agent, Stephen Q, in the waiting room. If Ms. Miller can just bring him into the Zoom room. Perfect.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, to you.
Thank you. The applicant.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and committee members. Can you hear me?
Yes, we
Yes,
can.
I can hear you. I just don't. Oh, okay, Stephen. Mr. Q.
My last name is Chi.
Oh,
Chi.
I apologize. Chi.
No worries.
No, I'm glad you corrected us. We might as well learn to pronounce the correct way, Mr. Chi. I would like to start, Mr. Chi. All these lands, parts, if you look at the Barnes survey, you got big parcels like 1, 9, 8. This parcel land, is it presently all under one owner?
So it's under 4 ownership. That's why it's there are 4 applications. But it's all under one umbrella, which is Bella Life Residence Inc.
By you meaning 4 partners? 4 partners could be 4 Ontario numbered companies, and the same person owns all 4 numbered companies.
That is correct.
And that's the way this is being held?
That is correct.
Okay, so then from a, how shall we say, a layman's point of view, it's all under one ownership. And from a business point of view, it's been divided up by various companies.
That is correct.
Now, you want to develop this. What I can understand why this procedure is being used, why will you bring this to our committee? What you're essentially doing is building a road and wanting services going through that road. And eventually, I know you're going to put one apartment, one of them, you're going to be building something. Why is this approach? Why wouldn't you go through a development approach and with a site plan agreement with the town?
So to answer through you, Sir Chair, so the proposed building, it's a 5-story retirement home building. It's going to be located on Part 4, as shown on the sketch. Yeah. So only in that area. And we have been through the proper planning applications and process. And I believe the site plan control application has been approved and already entered a site plan agreement with the town.
For that portion, for the Part 4 portion.
That is correct, which is why we are trying to sever Part 5 and Part 10, because they will be vacant. And we want to join them to the lands to the south for future developments.
Okay, so you've got development on the one parcel, and then now the vacant parcels, you're just getting access and getting easements through for services and that. Okay, I understand it. Brenda, Sandra, do you have any questions?
I have no questions.
No.
I also have no questions.
Okay. No, thank you, Ms. I understand now what you're doing here. Okay. Seeing that we have no other further questions, Holly, I will close the public portion of the meeting and ask if there are any emails regarding this.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just let me check. Mr. Chair, it is 4:57 p.m. and I can confirm that there are no emails and we've had no pre-registered members of the public, and therefore you can close your public portion of the meeting. Okay,
so then we'll close the public portion. Now, Holly, we have, I gather we have to vote on each item individually and then bring out the conditions to each one individually, correct? So I would bring a motion for B25, B26, B27, B28, all separately, and the conditions be read all separately and voted all separately.
Through you, Mr. Chair, it's to the committee's wish. You can do them individually. If a committee member wanted to bring all of them concurrently, I would just need you to be clear that it's for application 25, 26, 27, 28, and state what the applications are for, and to provide your reasons. And I think that the reasons were all very similar, and I think that the conditions were also the same. So those could be done concurrently if that's what the committee would like to do.
Well, what I'm saying, quite honestly, it's either approve all of them or there's a problem. So because all of them have to be approved for this plan to work.
Yes,
So
through you. There is a condition for concurrent approval. So certainly if the committee does want to vote on all of them together, that would be fine. It's just that as long as the motion is made clear onto which applications and that they're all being granted or refused.
Okay, so what I would say to my committee members, I would ask someone to make a motion. I would ask that when you make the motion, have mention all 4 files. And mentioned that how we want it granted, and that we be specific that we can read one of the conditions. We could read the conditions. I think we should read the conditions for each one to be sure to have that in the minutes, and then we can take a vote on it after that. So could I have a motion from one of my committee members, please? Okay, Sandra,
Okay,
please.
so I'd like to make a motion for file B25/2021P, file B26/21P, file B27/21P, and file B28/21P all be granted. More specifically, file B25/2021P, west side of Rice Road between RR20 and Shaw Avenue, aka Meridian Way, Pelham. The application for consent to convey parts 5 and 10 to be added to parts 6 and 7, to convey an easement over parts 3 and 10 for a right-of-way, to convey an easement over part 14 for a right-of-way, to convey an easement over part 10 for private water main be granted, subject to the following conditions to the satisfaction of the Secretary Treasurer, that applications B25/2021P, B26/2021P, B27/2021P, and B28/2021P receive final certification concurrently. Solicitors undertaking identifying order of document registration to merge parts 5 and 10 with parts 6 and 7, and to provide the Secretary Treasurer with the solicitors undertaking to merge a registrable legal description, copy of the deposited reference plan, and the final certification fee of $399. This decision is based on the following reasons. The application conforms to and complies with the town official plan, regional policy plan, provincial policy statement, and town zoning bylaw. The decision is rendered having regards to section 5124 and 5125 of the Planning Act, and the committee considered all written and oral submission and finds that subject to the conditions, this application meets Planning Act criteria and is consistent with and complies with provincial, regional, and town planning policy. File B26/2021P, no municipal address, southeast corner of Rice Road and Shaw Avenue, aka Meridian Way, Pelham. Application for consent to convey an easement over part 7 for a right-of-way, to convey an easement over part 7 for a private water main is granted, subject to the following conditions. To the satisfaction of the Secretary Treasurer, that applications B25/2021P, B26/2021P, B27/2021P, and B28/21P receive final certification concurrently. Provide the Secretary Treasurer with a registrable description, copy of deposited reference plan, and final certification fee of $399. The decision is based on the following reasons. The application conforms to and complies with town official plan, regional policy plan, provincial policy statement, and town zoning bylaw. The decisions rendered having regard to sections 5124 and 5125 of the Planning Act, and the committee considered all written and oral submissions and finds that, subject to the conditions that this application meets Planning Act criteria, is consistent with and complies with provincial, regional, and town planning policy. File B27 2021P, no municipal address, north side of Shaw Avenue, aka Meridian Way, between Wellspring Way and Rice Road, Pelham. Applications for consent to convey an easement over Part 8 for a right-of-way and to convey an easement over Part 8 for a private water main is granted, subject to the following conditions. To the satisfaction of the Secretary Treasurer, that applications B25 2021P, B26 2021P, B27 2021P, and B28 2021P receive final certification concurrently. Provide the Secretary Treasurer with a registrable legal description, copy of the deposited reference plan, and final certification fee of $399. The decision is based on the following reasons. The application conforms to and complies with town official plan, regional policy plan, provincial policy statement, town zoning bylaw. The decision is rendered having regards to section 5124 and 5125 of the Planning Act. And the committee considered all written and oral submission and finds that, subject to the conditions, this application meets Planning Act criteria and is consistent with and complies with provincial, regional, and town planning policy. File B28 2021P, no municipal address, east side of Wellspring Way between RR20 and Shaw Avenue, aka Meridian Way, Pelham. Applications for consent to convey an easement over Part 2 for a right-of-way, an easement over Part 2 for a private water main, and to convey an easement over Part 11 for pedestrian access is granted. The above decisions is subject to the following conditions. To the satisfaction of the Secretary Treasurer, applications B25-2021P, B26-2021P, B27-2021P, and B28/2021P receive final certification concurrently. Provide the Secretary Treasurer with a registrable legal description, copy of the deposited reference plan, and final certification fee of $399. This decision is based on the following reasons. The application conforms to and complies with town official plan, regional policy plan, provincial policy statement, and town zoning bylaw. The decision is rendered having regards to sections 5124 and 5125 of the Planning Act, and the Committee of Adjustment considered all written and oral submissions and finds that, subject to the conditions, this application meets Planning Act criteria, is consistent with and complies with provincial, regional, and town planning policy.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder?
I second the motions.
Okay. So now call to a vote. All those in favor of B26, B27, B25, 26, 27, and 28/21 P be granted, that the easements be all granted. All in favor, raise their hands. Carried. All four are carried then. Thank you, Mr. Chi.
Thank you, Sir Chair and committee members. Have a good night.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That brings you to your next item of business, which is the approval of minutes from the August 3rd, 2021 Committee of Adjustment hearing, in which yourself and Ms. Marsh were present.
Yeah, I have that here. I can say I found I didn't find any problems with it at all. I'll ask. Yeah, Sandra was there. Whether Sandra, how did I gather you have no problem with it either? Sandra, you still there?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, okay. I don't know if you can see me or not. I don't know what just happened, but I will make a motion to approve those minutes.
Okay, I'll second it, seeing that only you and I can vote, and we'll vote in favor of accepting the minutes, Holly, because the third party is not here today. Is that okay?
Yes, it is.
Thank you.
Thank you. And then you'd be just looking for a motion to adjourn.
Yeah, I'm just looking at something. Okay, now I need a motion to adjourn. Do I have one?
Motion to adjourn.
Brenda,
And I will second that.
seconded. Yeah, Sandra seconded. All in favor, raise your hands. Okay, Brenda, I know I see your hand in black there. Okay, carried.
Thank you.
And thank you. Good to see you, Holly.
Good to see you. Have a good night.
Yeah,
Thank
you too.
you.
Thank you very much.